Hey, hello everybody. Let's have a test of the sound. All good? Working. Perfect. Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. Today we have live coverage of the CPI report. We're going to be doing some live TA. We're going to be looking at what Bitcoin does, how is it going to react. We're going to do some pre-CPI report as well, TA. There are some promising things that could give us some ideas of where the price could head after the report is released. Obviously, it's impossible to tell before. Usually you get the results and the price is rallying in one direction and it goes in like complete opposite direction. So please guys, be aware that it's very risky to trade on a day where this sort of reports with such a huge impact on what's going to happen with overall all the markets. So we're going to cover a few things. We're going to look into as well what other people are thinking, things that we need to be aware. We're going to look into the liquidation levels, where is the market position, and we're going to cover a bunch of new bots and old bots performance as well. That's going to be probably after the report is released. In the meantime, we're going to cover some TA pre the release of the report to get us, ahead and understand what things could influence the outcome before, and what are also the targets that we can actually reach after we know the results. So let's get into the content, get comfy. We have half an hour until we get the results. And in the meantime, why not start to look at some social and as well at some TA? So first of all, the CPI, that's today in half an hour around. We got a forecast of 6.2. The previous one was 6.4. There were some numbers that were released in the previous times that they got corrected. So there's also can happen that we get a number and then they need to tweak the number. That's really odd, but be aware that that can also happen. We can see here how the CPI peaked around July, and then from around 8.8, it's been coming down, which is actually generating the expectation and is driving all this bullishness that we are seeing. Whether that is nonsense and you shouldn't be bullish or not, that's a different thing, but the CPI is coming down with every release. Sometimes it tells to push the price lower and sometimes a bit higher. That's a little bit difficult to forecast, but we're going to try to do the best we can. And this week is not just about the CPI. On Wednesday and Thursday, there's some other important reports they're also going to impact the price as well. And we can see that a lot of USDT is being printed, it's being mint, and that is going straight into the exchanges, and that obviously can be used for shorts, can be used for longs. I'm going to cover later in the video whether at the moment there are more shorts or more longs. We're going to cover the potential liquidation levels that we could see if we see a short squeeze as well, up to what level we can pump to get those shorts liquidated, or if we go in the other direction, what could be also the outcome. We can see here how the rate is coming lower. I'm going to also compare in the MyTA analysis how this correlates with the moves of Bitcoin. We're going to open TradingView in just a few minutes to see, when we start seeing that the inflation rate starts coming down, what does it happen really with Bitcoin? What should we expect? There's JP Morgan's game plan on the CPI day. This, I wouldn't take it necessarily so serious, but there's many institutions that are large and that they usually share what is their expectation. Obviously, personally, if there's anything below 6.2, I'm gonna get super happy for my longs. If there's anything above that, I'm gonna be looking into shorting the market for a short to medium term. If you can see above 6.5, they give a probability of 5%, and then the S&P reaction of 2.5 to 3% down. Now, that's the reaction on the stock market. So think about that multiplied multiple times, depending on whether you're holding Bitcoin or you're holding layer 1 or you're going to lower caps. That obviously is magnified much more. And the percentage here, the highest one is 65% given to 6 to 6.3. And if you see anything, within that range, you should expect the markets to do something positive with a high likelihood. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed. And below 6.0 is expected the maximum, happiness. And above 6.5, that takes us to the max pain, obviously. Let's look at the liquidation levels. I'm going to start today with the 2-year because this is a little bit more difficult to see because you're going to see more shadows and less green areas. But I'm going to focus on the most recent part, but this is the accumulated liquidity through 2 full years. Let me confirm. Yes, 2 years. And here we see that at 25.6, there's the maximum amount of liquidity for liquidation. And I'm not saying that, how easy it is to get there, but potentially if we get a very good result on the CPI, we could head to those levels to get these shorts liquidated. So because there's a lot of liquidity there, there's 184, whereas at the bottom we can see 136, that's at 15K. That is pretty far from where we are. Obviously, the 25K is closer, and this doesn't necessarily play out in a few days. We are looking at the 2-year chart of liquidation. That could be, take a full month to play out. So we need to pay that in consideration. 3 months, let's have a look. On the 3 months, we start seeing a little bit more of yellow. Again, we get kind of the same levels. You're going to see some discrepancy between the 2-year and the 3 months. And that is because on the 3 months, this is just what accumulated during 3 months. And in 2 years, there were accumulations from before when the price was around there. But in the last 3 months on 25.2, there's big accumulation. We can see that 18.6 is an area of interest. And again, the 20.8 that we were mentioning a few days ago, that we expect the Fed to be salivating with those liquidations there. So those are very important. Now, this chart most of the time is helpful to try to forecast what's the direction. Okay, so here you got the shorts are more exposed right now than the longs, and I'm going to show you more data to confirm that. And that means that doesn't mean necessarily that they must get wrecked and the price has to go down and liquidate them. Sometimes they get away with staying in this red area where there's too many shorts and the price still goes up, it goes down, and they are all happy. But I'm just putting this data here because there is a likelihood that we get a short squeeze with all this exposure of 4 billion at the moment on BTC. So let's keep that in mind. We're going to look as well at the DXY and NASDAQ and S&P right now. And on the DXY, I'm going to cover it in weekly, daily, and 4-hour because on each of the different time frames, I'm seeing different things. Obviously, here on the weekly, we can do 2 different readings. We have a breakout here that I share on my Twitter. Make sure you following me on Twitter. I say we are gonna go higher on the DXY. I'm seeing here a strong bounce, and that's exactly what we got since then. Since my post, actually we went below and we got bought up, and we rally, probably from 100 to 104 almost, and now we're pulling back. And now it depends where we want to put this trend line, because some people put trend lines with the highs of the price or the low of the price. I prefer to place them with the close. Okay, so that will be my preferred way, and my interpretation will be there is a breakout. But I've seen some people in the media doing this and saying we broke and we are now confirming support there and we are going to have another leg up. That can still happen on the weekly, but let's cover as well the daily. And the daily, we're going to be able to place this trend line slightly different. And now we can see a bit more of that consolidation above the trend line without breaking it to the downside. Obviously, today what we want to see is breaking the trend line below and collapsing to allow the risk on assets. And I'm not sharing my screen. I'm not sharing screen. Can you see the charts now? We are seeing this consolidation here on the daily, and we can see it above the trend line. I'm sorry about that, guys. I hope you still are going to get value with the rest of the live stream. I'm not going to repeat everything if that is okay, but I'm just going to carry on with the TA. Sometimes I do this that I forget to put the screen. Sorry about that. Look at the trend line here on the daily. We are above the trend line, and we have broken above and we are holding it. I was saying that we could break below this trend line, and that will be great for risk on assets. If we stay above and we do another leg up to the higher range, which is actually above about 104 to 105, that's my next level. That will be painful for the markets. Now, if we look at the 4 hour, in the 4 hour, we are currently seeing a bearish formation on the DXY. So this is the first thing probably that you're going to hear me saying that is bearish for the DXY and is bullish for crypto and risk on assets. This double top on the 4 hour. For that, what we need to see is we need to see the DXY breaking, below 102.6. We've been talking 102.5 for months. Breaking below, breaking above is a massive level of support and resistance. It's very relevant. And again, we are seeing another formation above, risking to go below 102.5. If that happens, we have a party. We will break literally the trend line, and we will target the lower end, 101 to 100. And that will be, we could resume what we were already having in the previous month and go to 25K. But for that, we need this DXY setup to play out. The Nasdaq. Okay, the Nasdaq on the 4 hour, we saw a hive sell on the 4 hour, and it play out to the downside. It already reached the target. So that could be it. Maybe it bounces back there. It's already bouncing, but it could be doing another higher high later. Let's look at the daily and the weekly. So on the weekly, we are still above the trend line. This is exactly what we want to be seeing, but we are against resistance at this precise level there. What we want to see today, again, is a good report, breaking above this line, and we could head for more upside. Bad report here, perfect level for rejection and coming back down. We can also see on the weekly here that we are forming a double bottom. right? So we also have the opposite thing that we are seeing on the DXY. We are seeing the perfect setup for a breakout with an argument that we can go higher. But still, we haven't confirmed that. So I'm not saying the double bottom will necessarily play out. That will totally depend on the news that we get today. All right. It seems like, okay, this is the next one. This is very interesting. We are seeing now the inflation rate, and this is, the highest point we had, which was in June in 2022. And from 8 point something, we are coming down to 6.5. And we are seeing here below, I'm going to try to get the chart to match. It's not necessarily going to match perfectly well, something like this, more or less. So that's the whole story of the whole history of Bitcoin on the downside. And we got it in logarithmic. And on the top, we see what's going on with the inflation. Normally, what we see is that the tops of the market coincide with levels of a high inflation. I mean, it's not perfectly by the dollar, but there are some peaks at levels of high inflation when we are reaching those points. And there is a reason for that, because normally we get high inflation when we are printing money. Okay, here we are printing money and we increase in inflation, we top out, and when we come down, we slow down in the printing and the price comes down. So now this is on the way down and we are in that level there. So that's kind of the correlation. It's kind of a consequence of, as well, of seeing what the DXY reverse correlation has with BTC. It's kind of the same thing. Now we're going to look at the weekly chart. We're going to look at the levels of support and resistance. Where could we bounce if we come down and retest the next levels? So in this week, we have done something phenomenal. We are so far managing to hold this support that previously was resistance. So this is a flip zone. But we got a second flip zone right below where we are. So that one at 21.5 last night held magnificently. If we look at the daily, we're going to see that it got bought up. It actually wicked to the downside and it re-entered the range. So from 21.5 to 25, we are re-entering this range. On the weekly, let's go back here and we're going to see that we have also weeks here of resistance and support at the 20.4. That is also holding the close of the price in different areas. In here, more recently, in January 16, we held there. So if there was a fake out to the downside with more upside, that's another scenario that we could be seeing. It's not necessarily going to be just up from there. It could also happen that we bounce there to this area that is very significant and come back up. And I don't want to be biased to be bullish or bearish. There are arguments for both things, but we need to be prepared for a potential scenario like that. We could break this support today and come back down and from there do something, or it might, with less likelihood, but we might break this 20 there and go to 18.5. That will be the next level with more pain, which is located around here. I see it less likely, but it can still happen. Let's look at the shorts, the ratio versus the longs. This is also very important because we are seeing here that the shorts, according to what we were seeing before, there's loads of shorts here in the liquidation map. We can also see that the shorts are also increasing their positions in Bitfinex. That information is public. And what I normally do is I apply an RSI to the source of the shorts and the longs, and then I can see how much is the strength that is growing in terms of the positions. So you can see here that from around 21 all the way up, the short positions, they keep growing. They get sometimes liquidated, obviously, because there are some pumps in the way, but the speculation is that this was gonna collapse and they were just trying to find a better position. And right now, they are at an RSI of 85 almost in being shorts, whereas the RSI of the longs is barely at 52. So you have to compensate these two things and understand that the bias right now is extremely bearish, at least in terms of the positions coming from futures, from perpetuals. And that is sometimes the perfect recipe for a short squeeze. It doesn't mean that always plays out. If we get, very bearish news with the CPI, these guys might get away with winning as well, but it's lowest likelihood. And let's remember, we have a high signal on the daily that is pointing to 20.5. That so far has done, a good percentage out of 10% that it was forecasting to the downside. It has done so far 6. So it's got still 4% more to complete, what is the target. In the whole bear market, it hasn't failed. And my expectation is that it's only going to fail once we enter officially a bull market. That's the only times in the chart when you see it failing. This is something that I was mentioning on Twitter, and that every time we cross the first Fibonacci line, we have a massive drawdown. 46%. In here, we have 47%, 72%. Okay, every time we cross the second line, in this case, we went to the third line. That's why there was more drawdown. But our first attempt to get to first or second usually gets sold out. Okay, either it causes a double bottom, or like here, or you got the COVID there, that is also considered by many as a double bottom formation long term. And in here, we just crossed this. So if you think that we are going to repeat what we have done always, then we should, in the best case, do a drawdown of a 40%, because here I see 46, 47, 72. If we do that, we should come down to lower levels, below at least the second line. And I'm not saying that it has to happen from today. So the drawdown doesn't need to be measured from 21. It could be that we head higher to even 40 or 35, and then from then we get this drawdown. Just wanted to mention that. In terms of today, we don't want to see the price, I repeat, on the CPR, we don't want to see it to go below 20.2. Going to 20.2 and being below the last CPR level, the last pivot, there are 3 pivots here, that means that we are heading to the first red level. If we hold this, we have to go and during the month at least once touch the green, which is the first resistance. The model says that we have to do that. We have to bounce against the support and every month at least once touch the green to be able to say that we are in a sustainable move to the upside. If we break that rule, the likelihood increases massively that we are heading towards one of the red lines. So keep that in mind. And on the RSI on the weekly, we are still above 50. I want to see after today whether we cross the 50 and we go below 50. Being below 50 wouldn't be good at all. Ideally, if we get some pullback, we want to get from where we are, 51, not below 50. We want to just bounce against that in the worst case scenario and then head to higher levels of weekly RSI. That, again, is if we want to sustain the rally. And again, I remind you that the Fed, they might share the new CPI. They might increase rates. They might do whatever they want publicly, but we also care of what they are doing with their own assets. And in the past week, they bought just a tiny bit. So from here, they bought exactly what they sold the previous week. So that for us is one way of kind of controlling that what we are getting from the public news is consistent. Like if we see tomorrow, which is Wednesday, there's going to be a new candle of this, and we see something like this, that will be extremely bullish, regardless of what is the CPI or regardless what is the rate. That means that they are bullish on buying assets. And that for us should mean there is a divergence between what they're publishing versus what they're really doing. Obviously, that is subject to this data being also accurate and fair. But that's another story. I hope this data, is honest at least. In this logarithmic chart, we are retesting this level, and that is precisely what we want to be doing at this time in the market. This is what most traders, they want to be seeing. We want to be seeing that we are coming back, retesting. This will be the most healthy way to resume the uptrend. If not held, if we do something like this, that will mean lower lows, or at the very least that we get to this level of support there. The very least, not holding it and failing to the downside. So we want to see today to see higher levels on this, ideally above 23. That would be preferable to confirm that this level is strongly supporting the price, that it cannot be broken again to the downside. On Cerberus, we are coming back down, okay, which is what we were expecting to see since the 16th of January. We were saying we are going to, at the very least, come back down something like this and potentially do another higher high. Or if there are very bad news, I will expect this to cross the red line and start being in a sell signal. Okay, so we have one more minute and we are almost about to see the results. So we still don't have a result here. We got 6.2, but the actual is still not there. Let me know in the comments if you already know the number. Okay, and let's go as well to the chart to see what's going on with the price. With the price, we are seeing, whoa, massive wick to the downside. I told you we are going to have big volatility. I don't know you guys, but when I see these candles, I find it amazing. It's just so impressive to see the price moving so slow sometimes, and every now and then you witness. Let me know in the comments what was the biggest candle that you have ever seen live when you were trading. I think I was watching Luna once, and it was really painful to watch though. Let's see what's the number. Okay, 6.4. That is not good. Okay, we were expecting lower numbers, and so this number is what is explaining, this trend broken there. Okay, but it made it to 21.5 and it held so far, and we still have, this level of support here that hasn't been broken. Potentially can be broken in the next few minutes. Let's have a look at the liquidations. Another thing I wanted to look today is at these levels. Where are the orders? Let's see this. You can see that there were massive accumulations at 21.5. And then the next that follows that amount is 21, 20.5. You see how people are not very creative. Every $500, there is a massive accumulation. And they were, the only level to sell above was 22K. There was no sales on the higher range, which also was telling me that there were not much expectations that this was going to go higher. Now, interestingly, everybody was on a short and the price has reacted and came down. I told you that there can be a bias to one side and they get away with that. Who knows, maybe the information got leaked and everybody knew already kind of the report up front, and that's why there were so many, orders at that level. 22, we got 21.5, but the price still hasn't moved much. Okay, that is live data. Now I have live data. Yeah. There is still massive support at 21,440. But this just started there. Okay. I don't see anybody pulling out on the left-hand side. Normally, when you get the news, they also pull out from doing longs. They read the news and they don't want to get wrecked. But this was the week, and I'm actually seeing more volume on the downside still. It's interesting. It's like you get the 22.1 that has big volume. That's a massive wall to cross. But then here, there is almost more volume at 21.5. And that started probably from the time we got the announcement. And let's look at the liquidations as well. Let's look at the 12-hour. That's going to show us probably where are we heading now. Okay, we can see how that level is gone now. And there is the next level to get liquidated, which is probably going to create another wick like that. Is located at 21.325. This is 12 hours, okay? So it's very short term. And you always have to be looking at the other time frames as well to confirm things. But in the 12-hour, there's still a level of liquidation there of poor longs that we're hoping to go higher. And remember, even though the news are 6.4, that is still not above 6.5. So there is still a tiny micro chance that this reverts and it still makes a higher high. Okay, the markets are very odd to interpret these things. I got completely used to having a fixed expectation and then getting it broken. And then after it gets broken, the outcome, and you make a higher high after a bad report, then in the news they say, yeah, that's because of this, and then the explanation follows what happens. But actually the price went in the other way after 12 hours. So you could see this week to the downside, and maybe in 12 hours you wake up in the morning to Bitcoin at 23K. That also can happen. It's just about you monitoring as well in doing TA and looking at how things are developing and reacting to the things that are happening in the chart with what the chart is telling you, rather than just speculating based on what happened in the past after a report came out. That's usually not enough. On the 7-day, we get these levels. Sorry, why it's not working? On the 7-day, I'm going to have to refresh it. Is it working now? No, it's not working. Sometimes high block. mean, Hivlux has amazing information, really cool information, but it bothers me that it's such a poor website. I'm sorry, guys. I love the product. I love the information, but I have to say I don't like the way the charts are presented. It's also very slow, and I'm hoping that there is an alternative to this very soon, something that works better, but that also give good information. I also assume that there are a lot of people refreshing the page and they're not being able to deal with all the load. So on the 1 month, look at this. So if this hasn't been refreshed, look at this. This says 130 and it still doesn't show the move to the downside. And we got the 20.8 that we were talking about, and which I think is pretty likely that we at least visit this. That to me wouldn't surprise me at all. What will surprise me right now is that with a 6.4, we come to liquidate the 25.2. That will honestly surprise me now. But again, anything can happen. Should we have a look at the bots? Because I promised to you to do some review on your bots. Let me share these bots and I'm gonna go through the performance of them. I'm going to share the links so you can have a look. You can decide whether you want to copy some of these bots. The first one is the Bakker setup 4.0, which works on BTC. It's got a limited amount of coins. You can go to my website, the tradingparrot.com, and then go to the newsletter. One of the latest articles gives all the detail to fully copy it. But today we're going to look into how it's performing. I actually want to see what's doing with all this volatility. And, it seems pretty strong. I mean, you have to give this setup that. It has done 1,000. It's trading with 0.6, I believe, 0.6 BTC. And it's incredible that it has done all of this and it's holding with a UPNL, unrealized profit and loss of $56 only. That is very interesting because that's good, right? That means that this setup is very resilient. I tried to create mutations of Bakker 4.0 using different take profits. This one is using 8.5. if I'm not wrong. And when I tried to do that, I did take profit conditions with RSI crossing below 70 and doing trailing, doing different things. And I have to say Bakker did a great job because with the 8.5, at least so far, I haven't been able to outperform this setup without making major changes to the actual setup, just to the take profit, literally. And there is no stop loss. So be aware that this is risky. It's a setup that doesn't have stop loss. So if the market really goes south, some of these tokens might get you caught regardless of having this amount of safety orders. Okay. Then this is one from a video from past year. Where we were making kind of a competition between different types of QFLO bots. And I have been monitoring them on paper trading. And unfortunately, remember in January, there were issues with paper trading with pre-commas. They stopped paper trading for a while. So there's a period that it didn't trade at all. So we don't know what happened there. I can just speculate that the time that it was switched off, Bitcoin was at 15K to 17K, and then it went up. So my speculation is that after that, all alts were pumping. So whatever profits I see here, my speculation says that it would have been even better if it was switched on at that time, and not from the time where I did switch it back on, which is more or less like 20th of January. That's the time my account started working again. I still see disactivate there, but actually it's working. You can see that there are trades on the recent trades around here. I don't know why they have still this defect. So this one is working pretty well. This one is the one that has one max active deal, and it's got no minimum take profit. So whenever you come back down from 70 RSI on the 5 minutes, you just close it, regardless of being in a loss or in a win. It just exits. And I think yesterday it took a trade with IMX that was really bad. That was for 4 hours on this version running, and it took this loss, and which is compensated with the wins of the previous period of bullishness. And the other one, the EE2, which you can also find in my video, all the details. And if you want to copy these bots, they are all in the description of the video. You can inspect them there, or you can watch the full video about QFLO. And this one, the only difference with EE1, which is the previous one, is that this one doesn't close with a take profit below 0. This just only accepts wins or it holds. And it's got a timeout of 29 hours. So this one, with the deal from yesterday, I believe is still holding it. And it's probably not going to be great deal because, it's still holding. This is negative. It might have closed in a loss right now. So maybe with this week down, it got stopped out. Yes, probably it got stopped out. So that now is 2691. And on the one that closed earlier is the profits are at 1804. So still, QFLO with the minimum take profit is the best one, the best performing one. So if you want to remember which one is this, is the number 2 using USDT in that video. And again, the links are in the description if you want to study how these bots, they work. I got 3 new bots that I want to share today with you. These are bots that are very interesting because, or not particularly because of the setup. You're gonna probably recognize, this specific setup, which is the QFL. It's a QFLO, but it's a QFLO without timeout, without stop loss, with a minimum take profit of, I believe, 1%. And what makes it interesting is that it's trading groups of tokens. So we got Fundamentals 1, Fundamentals 2, and Fundamentals 3. And each one of them is invested with $4,000. Yeah. And why is it called IA Fundamentals? Well, there is a channel in YouTube called Investment Answers, and they look into news, they look into TA. I really like all the information from that channel. And in one of the videos, earlier this year, he said the tokens are more bullish for the full year for holding. So what I did was I grabbed the tokens that he is planning to hold. I researched those tokens. I did a little bit of cherry picking. I removed some of the tokens, and I ended up spreading the funds into 3 buckets. The same way he was going to do with the holding, but in this case with bots. So we got one bucket here that is Ethereum and BTC. So if you're guessing what is this one is going to be the more conservative assets. No, not conservative bot, but conservative asset, Ethereum and BTC. And that coincides with what he was saying. I'm going to hold the maximum amount in my pie, in my chart pie of these 2 assets. Then in the number 2, he put AR, BNB. Well, now I have my doubts on BNB because it's under attack, but the SEC with BUSD, we don't know how much they're going to keep, punishing Binance in US. That's another story. But you can decide whether you want to keep this or just remove it. But this is on paper trading. I've been studying the performance of this, Yes, it's like a QFLO, and just with these particular tokens. Links are again in the description. And the last but not least is this one. You're gonna also notice that the size of the positions are larger because obviously it's 4,000 and you get two positions of 2,000. Then the 4,000 next is for all these tokens. So you get positions of 800 per token. And on this one, you have many more very risky, more risky assets with good fundamentals, but very risky ones. So each one of them is with $235, making up again 4,000 in total. If you want to balance it less to the risky speculative assets, you can literally, remove some cash from this and give it more to the second bot and so on. So let's look at what they're doing, okay? This one started around, they started in 2022 in December, but it was switched off or it didn't work for a very long time because of the issues of paper trading. And it's got a deal and it's negative. So the bucket of Ethereum and BTC is still, in trouble. The ones that are doing the best are number 2 and number 3. You can see here that with the 4,000, it made 835 and it's down 174. Now that the market is moving, pretty aggressively, I will expect this to be slightly larger. 159. So that's what it's taking away right now. And then on this one, it has made 455, which is almost a 10% in just a few days, really. It's been doing really great. And it had this morning an unrealized profit of $900 extra, which are not close. This should go down by now. Oh, it's actually even higher, 947. So this one is very speculative and it totally depends on Bitcoin not dumping heavy, okay? The assets that are lower cap, I'm not saying that these are lower cap, but lowest than, the other ones. When Bitcoin dumps, and I'm talking more than 10%, 15%, and it starts a sell-off, then these guys, they just give up. And when they give up, these beautiful numbers here are gonna get completely smashed. So as long as Bitcoin holds 20 and just goes sideways, and then it goes back to 21 and 20 and just plays around that area, the altcoins are gonna have some room for moving in this way. If Bitcoin goes below 20 and starts losing 18.5, then it's going to be just massacre for this bot. So keep that as well in mind. The bots are not just magic. These bots are either you can consider them seasonal bots, but I prefer these bots to switch them on at good times. And good times are altcoin season. So yes, we are on the lower end of the altcoin season right now, kind of, getting close to halfway through the season index, the number, not the season. We are not in an altcoin season, but we are exiting Bitcoin season. We are exiting and we made it above the 25. So that's outside Bitcoin season. We made it to 45 and now we are holding 39. So if we get, if this works out well and the Bitcoin dominance, I don't know if you're monitoring the Bitcoin dominance in your charts, but if Bitcoin dominance starts coming down, it leaves room for this to do another leg up. And another leg up is going to definitely help all these bots that I have here. Okay. And last thing I wanted to mention is the performance on 3C tools. So I got the performance a bit more organized here with the 0, 2, 1, and 3 for QFLO bots. You can see again, the number 2 is the one that's taking the lead. This morning it had that position open in minus 500. So that's what took probably the big profits from this. It took it back below to 2.9, I think. I don't remember. And now it's competing more closely with number 1. So number 1 and 2 are taking the lead. 3 and 0, kind of behind. They were in red for a long time. They are just back above water. And the fundamentals, if you want to see performance monthly, you can see there 18 on number 2, 9 on number 3, and number 1 hasn't closed anything. That's Bitcoin and Ethereum anyway, so it's not that bad to just hold it for a while until it closes the deal. And I wanted to mention, so if you want to trade Bitcoin, I really like BitGet. It's working really well. I have some issues with other exchanges. That's the main reason I changed. Unfortunately, BitGet doesn't work with free commas. I'm using BitGet with other bot platforms like Mysar, TradeLab, and Plurex. They all support BitGet. Even TradeLab supports copy trading as well using the exchange BitGet. So that's great. If I want to do things that I can only do in Binance, I just do it in Binance. But there's another exchange that I don't want to mention. I had a lot of issues with the API connection. Like the connection was saying that it didn't open a deal, and in the bot platform it was showing me that the deal never opened. But then I go to the exchange and the position was open still. And that's because the API is just really bad quality in that exchange, which I'm not going to mention, but I'm not going to mention it anymore in this channel. And I never did, but I was using it for perpetuals and it doesn't really work very well. It's very unreliable, at least so far. I hope they fix it. So with BitGet, it's been very good, reliable. The API, it works really well. And I also can have as many accounts as I want, all using futures. So it gives me a lot of, flexibility. Up until now, no trouble. You can do, this task and even get in rewards $5,000. Obviously, that depends on how much you deposit. And this kind of confirms, my decision. Seeing that their token is going higher and doing an all-time high this week is confirming to me that they're doing a good product. That's what you want to see. You get the user experience, you start using the exchange. Does it work with the API? Does it work with the bots? Yes, okay. And then suddenly I started seeing that BGB was doing an all-time high, which, okay, they're doing great. And they also have this innovation zone, so you can also get a few bucks of BGB for free if you do your first trade. So that's pretty cool. So awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to look now into the questions, if there's any question. And again, I'm really sorry about the beginning of the live stream. I keep doing that stupid thing of not sharing the screen. You're still using free commas? Yes, I'm using free commas. I still think that free commas is overall, the best product out there to do bot trading. And I truly believe that it's in their best interest to resolve as quickly as possible all the security issues. And one proof of that is that they very quickly they managed to get sorted the fast connect, then the IP whitelisting. And it's not easy for a platform with bots that has hundreds of thousands of users to be able to have static IPs for all the users coming from everywhere in the world. But they did it in a reasonable time. In a couple of weeks, it was there. Other bot platforms that didn't have that, some of them have done it, some of them still don't have it because it's difficult and it's also expensive, and you need to interact with Binance and they need to give you time to do all that, but they did it. So now Binance and OKX, they have IP whitelisting. So if you are to use free comma still, I will encourage you to pick an exchange that has the highest security, which means fast connect, IP whitelisting. And if you are paranoid, even use pair whitelisting and just put the pairs that you are going to trade, and don't allow anything like withdrawals or sub-account transfers. So you don't want people to be intercepting your API keys and moving your money to perpetuals and then getting you liquidated and then you lose everything. You don't want that. So for the more paranoid, you can go that extra step. But that's right now, if you're using IP whitelisting, it should be much more difficult for a bad actor to intercept that and manage to do something. I will doubt it. Of course, security is a big topic, and anything can be broken. Any security, even the bank, someone can still steal your money from your bank. I heard stories like that as well. But I believe that it's in their best intention to protect it. And that's why I'm still trading with pre-commas. Now, there's something I'm probably never again gonna do, which is to put too much cash in a single bot platform with many exchanges. Like, I don't think it's a great idea to, if you tell me I have 100% in a single exchange connected to 3 commas, and I hope for the best, I will probably tell you that that's not a great idea, that I wouldn't do that myself. The other thing is, if you connect to 3 commas, just make sure you do it with the safest exchanges. And if there's a little bit more of fees, just ignore the fees. It's better to pay a bit more of fees, but have that extra safety. To reimburse the scam users. Well, I don't think a company that does bot trading has the funds to reimburse all the people that lost the funds. I don't think that's possible for a company like 3 commas. If they were forced to do that and they did it, they will go automatically bankrupt. That's what I will say, my speculation. I don't know, of course, but that's what I will expect. Yeah, the bots are available on Patreon and bot dashboard. Yes, but in this particular video, I left some links there if you want to study those bots. Of course, if you have further questions about the bots, you can leave comments on YouTube, or preferably join our Discord server where you can engage with many more users that are knowledgeable about those bots, and many users that have taken those bots and changed slight tweaks. And then every week I see someone that changed 1 or 2 bots and they made it massively better. So it's obviously, if you are into not just blindly copying the bot, but also trying to find how to improve it slightly more and discussing with other people in a group and then sharing your results and getting some feedback, that Discord server is the way to go. That's where I learned the most from users that joined my server, and where we were engaging in collaborations and idea. And I still do a lot of collaborations. By the way, if you want to collaborate on bots, if you think you're a great bot trader, that you come up with amazing signals or amazing setups and stuff like that, and you can, prove that you are good with bot trading, I'm really interested in collaborating with other people that also do bots. I'm not talking about a collaboration of I did 2-3 bots and they did well, stuff like that. But if you have a good record of doing great bots, I would love to collaborate with other people to exchange ideas and to create setups together and stuff like that. And maybe we can even do a live stream as well together. So a call for collaboration with master bot traders with a long record of doing good signals, writing Pine script, trading and showing stats with real money will be great. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Sorry for the beginning. Well, luckily it's gonna be recorded. You can just skip that part if you want. It's fine. Next time I will hopefully get it right. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, bye, friends. Bye-bye.